Don't blink. Don't even blink. Blink and you're dead. They are fast. Don't turn your back. Don't look away and don't blink.
You do see this, right? Uncle Larry, is Jeffrey in here?
Right here, we're working on the bathroom.
Jeffrey, say something.
Huh?
Say something.
So,
You. Hold on, guys, come in here.
why?
What are you doing?
The hell's that?
Don't move, don't say anything. You see this, right?
Is that a person? Oh, it's definitely a person.
That's a person.
That's
Did y'all know that back in the early 2000s, the police were having an issue tracking down a prank phone caller? There was about 70 to over 100 prank phone calls made to these large fast food chain restaurants. And in this particular instance, McDonald's had notified their manager of these prank phone calls. But the information was so vague that nobody remembered the memo. Fast forward to April 2004, and a manager of a McDonald's gets a phone call from Officer Scott. He instructs her that one of the employees stole a customer's purse. Officer Scott reassured her that corporate and her boss were both involved. But at this point in the investigation, she needed to pull that employee to the back office. She pulls the young 17-year-old high school student to the back office and advises her what the police officer's telling her over the phone. And of course, the girl's denying it. She's a good girl. She goes to church. She would never. And she even said, "Take me to the police station. I know I didn't do this." And the officer over the phone sternly advises the manager that the police are in fact on their way. But to speed up the process, she might as well just be searched. Crying and upset, the 17-year-old employee agrees, and she removes her articles of clothing. So now she's standing in front of her manager with nothing but her underwear and bra on. When at this point, the officer over the phone advises she needs to remove those two. They both plead with the officer over the phone, but eventually the 17-year-old obliges and removes them. Now, at some point, another female manager walks into the office. And although she doesn't get tangled up in what's going on, she leaves and doesn't say anything. The officer then informs them that the next part of the investigation must be done by a male. So the manager goes and gets a male employee. Once he enters the office, he too doesn't want to have anything to do with it. Goes back to work and doesn't report anything. At this point, Officer Scott on the phone coerces the manager to call up her fiance. This guy, with no affiliation to McDonald's, comes in and has a seat in the room. And the manager hands him the phone and walks out. And slowly yet surely, Officer Scott instructs the man to perform certain lewd activities on that 17-year-old. And at this point, people could argue that he thought he was being instructed by someone of law enforcement. But it was the moments that his fiance, the manager, would walk back in the room that he would throw the apron to the girl and whisper for her to cover up. Eventually, the fiance leaves. The manager gets back on the phone. And the officer instructs her to find another male. The manager tracks down the janitor, who is coming to the restaurant to get him something to eat. He pulls him into the back office and hands him the phone. Now, this guy's assessing what's happening, what's going on. And he tells the manager, "You gotta stop. Something's not right." And this is when it seems to dawn on the manager. Yeah, something might be off. As she remembers, the officer had told her that corporate and her boss were involved. So on another line, she calls her boss. The boss wakes up and says they have no knowledge of any such investigation.
I'm beginning to say, baby, I'm really falling down, da, da, da.
Supervisor tells the manager she has no idea of such investigation. It finally hits the manager the magnitude of the situation. The manager was fired from McDonald's and later charged with kidnapping. The fiance was charged with sodomy and assault. Now, these calls were traced to a calling card that was purchased at a Walmart in Panama City. One of the Walmarts had a security cam that traced the buyer of the card, but they were not able to prove that he was the one that made the phone calls. And his lawyer is cited saying that he's not even bright enough to pull off such a hoax. There were at least 13 instances where the employee was instructed to strip search. The victim was awarded $6.1 million, although later it was retracted to a little over $1 million.